right, we are ready to get started. This is not the Democratic National Convention. That was back in July. We are here instead to talk about the second phase of the Penn Avenue reconstruction project. This is a project that has been in planning for the most part over the last 7 years, pretty much ever since we completed phase one. Phase one took in the Phase one took in the area from Matilda Street to Eveline. It took 2 years to complete. There were a lot of problems that developed in the implementation of the project, and we have been working, I think, very diligently with Michael Panzitta from the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, and of late, Jan Rather, who is the mayor's liaison to his department. And we are meeting tonight because this project now is ready to go to the State Department of Transportation for final approval. But it can't go for final approval until the meeting takes place tonight. So that's why we're here. We are here hopefully to allow the city officials to do their presentation, and then we are going to invite questions, comments, concerns from the audience to whatever is being presented. So things are still somewhat fluid. Nothing is in any final unalterable condition. And we hope that tonight we'll have some good exchange of dialogue and do what People's Gas never agreed to do when they started their project this past summer. So the city has gone to great lengths to involve the community in this project, and we hope that because of that, it unfolds in a much more systematic and productive fashion. So with that, I'll turn everything over to our two guests. We also have Terry Oleszewicz from Trans Associates. He has been a consultant to the project. So engineering questions about the project probably will be tossed to Terry to answer. And we also have Sally Ann Clues, who is with a group called ShiftWorks, used to be the Office of Public Art. And in phase two, her organization has been working very hard to incorporate public art into what is eventually built between Eveline and Graham. So that is the locus for the next phase, 4 blocks, and hopefully the transformation that happens will be of benefit to everybody. All right, so let me turn it over and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Rick. I'm going to try and avoid being in front of the screen tonight, but shout at me or Mike if we do get in front of it. My name's Jan Rather. I'm the Infrastructure Engagement Specialist in the Mayor's Office. Been working closely with Mike, Rick, folks from the Penn Avenue Reconstruction Committee pretty closely for the last 18 months or so. We're here to talk about Penn Ave Reconstruction Phase 2. Thanks to Bloomfield Garfield Corporation for hosting us here tonight. Just a quick agenda. We're already into the welcome and introductions. We'll go over the meeting purpose, the review of our meeting norms. We'll do an overview for folks on Zoom. And then we'll dive into the topic, the reason you all are here, which is the project presentation. I think we're going to shoot for about 15, 20 minutes of Q&A. We'll bounce back and forth between in the room and Zoom. So if you have questions on Zoom, type them in the chat. And then we've got plans over here. Mike and the project team will be over here to answer questions, leave comments, and provide feedback. So again, already did a brief round of introductions. Mike Panzitta, project manager. Myself, Jan Rather, infrastructure engagement specialist. Joined by Lindsay Robles, who's the neighborhood engagement coordinator. She's running Zoom for us tonight. And Terry, the project manager from Trans Associates as well. So Rick already gave a pretty good overview, but really we're here to inform the public of the project plans between Eveline and Graham in advance of construction, provide updates on new aspects of the project since previous engagements, share information about project detours and impacts, answer questions, and collect comments. So some meeting norms. First and foremost to us is your physical and psychological safety. We'll go into a slide about that in a second. Want you to be here to listen to learn, be open to new ideas, assume our best intentions, assume your neighbor's best intentions. If there's something you disagree with, we ask that you do so respectfully, appreciate differences, especially differences of opinion. Be present and speak up. This meeting is here for you all to provide feedback, and we really want to hear from you. So if you're on Zoom, we ask that you remain muted. Use the chat function to have Lindsay ask a question on your behalf once we get to the Q&A section. You can also leave comments in the chat, and then Lindsay will be monitoring the chat and asking the questions when we get to Q&A. So real quick, a brief safety overview. You all came in through one of two exits, but there's an exit here and an exit back there in case of emergency. First aid, Pamela, do you know if there's a first aid location here?
I know there's a first aid station.
Okay, that'd be great, yeah. Do you know where that is?
Yes, it is. It should be in the supply.
All right, thank you very much. I don't know that any city staff are CPR certified. If we need somebody CPR certified, I don't know if anybody in the room would like to volunteer themselves, but I'll be the emergency contact calling 911 if we have an emergency. I ask that somebody call 911 if I'm the one in need of an emergency. I'm going to hand it over to Mike now to talk about the project, and I'll be back for the Q&A section.
Thank you, Jan. And thanks everyone for showing up. Thanks to Bloomfield Garfield for hosting. And thanks to the team for helping put this all together. So just a quick overview of like the project scope. Hopefully most of this is familiar. This is kind of our follow-up meeting. We had a big public meeting in preliminary engineering, actually before I was involved with the project. This is kind of getting us up to speed on kind of where we're at right now, some relatively major changes which we tried to highlight with the boards kind of for our plans presentation later, and just kind of the future and what to expect. So most of the construction will be a continuation of phase one, complete reconstruction of the sidewalk, curb, the roadway. We'll be removing the old trolley tracks, new lighting, new traffic signals, everything brand new. It should look relatively similar to phase one, but with a couple of changes. Everything will be concrete, similar black poles, all that. This project is approximately $9 million in construction, and it is an 80-20 federal local split. This project does have PennDOT oversight because of those federal funds, and we're working with them and FHWA to get the project implemented. This is the project area. On the projection, I'm sure it's hard to see detail. We actually have a big blow up of it on the table just for, for people to check out and to leave any comments on the post-its later. But this is the project area, as Rick said earlier. It starts at Eveline Street, goes to Graham, and we are reconstructing the sidewalk, curb, and roadway. We have highlighted some of the access, like the driveway access through there. And at each intersection, similar to phase one, we'll be doing pedestrian bump outs to kind of reduce those pedestrian crossing distances and provide a bit of a traffic calming effect. One big thing that's new and we'll be highlighting in future slides, at Pacific, this is something we heard back from the community, because that is the only not signalized intersection along the corridor. We are doing a raised intersection for additional kind of pedestrian safety impacts. So it's like a big speed hump that everyone has to go through when they're going through the corridor. So that was something that we talked about with the community. We also have these cross sections. You can see, again, we're reconstructing everything. We have it all colored out. We'll still have parking lanes on either side of the street, 2 11-foot travel lanes, and then at the intersections, we have the sidewalk widened out. Those, the parking at the intersection will be expanded sidewalk area just to reduce that crossing space and provide a little more space for pedestrians who are crossing the street. Just some new features since preliminary design. The raised intersection, again, that was one that we had heard from the community over the past 18 months or so, as Jan was noting. We've been working with Pogo, the station right now by the Aldi's, where you kind of have to pull it out into the street. We expanded the sidewalk bump out there to allow for you to get in and out to that station on the sidewalk. We heard about issues along particularly Friendship Ave during construction of phase 1. So we are implementing a bunch of speed humps in that general area to do traffic calming and to encourage people to take the posted detour, which we will be going through later in the presentation. And we have a specific board for the detour route, the signed detour route here. A big one, as Rick noted, is the public art. So we have Sally Ann and her team here. They've been working with some local artists to pull together some kind of streetscaping aspects that we'll be able to discuss during the plan presentation. And we also have a landscape architect on for the planting areas, although they weren't able to join us for the meeting today. Just some big ones that we heard, issues on phase 1, to kind of follow up with what Rick was saying. We won't be including the lit light cubes that I know had a lot of issues. And then also we had heard issues with the stormwater tree grates that had the little cuts in the curb, that those didn't really function right and just kind of became garbage cans in the street. So we're doing standard tree pits. The dirt comes up to the sidewalk, and we'll do like tree grates, kind of more. We have some artistic. I think we'll end up doing probably some artistic, some standard, or maybe all artistic. We'll see, depending on the budget. This is a blow up of the raised intersection. We also have a printout here for people to kind of dwell on a little longer. The green is the part that will be at sidewalk grade within the intersection. The blue is all the sidewalk, and then the pink shows kind of where you ramp up. Everything here will be at a tabletop. We did put bollards in at all 4 legs to to force cars to not like trail over the sidewalk and the ADA ramp. And yeah, so that's what we're looking at the Pacific intersection. Again, and we'll have that up for people to discuss as when we have the plans presentation. Another big one is the MPT. I'm sure that's a huge impact during construction, as it always is. We have Liberty as the posted detour for eastbound traffic. You'll hop off up here at, it's Liberty and, where are we at? Is it Liberty and Main? I think it's Liberty and Main. We'll be posted detour, and they'll take Liberty up to Negley here. For eastbound traffic. Westbound traffic we will be maintaining on Penn Ave at all times. So there will be 1 lane of traffic inbound for the entire duration. We have shown what we anticipate the bus detour to be, but typically PRT will set up their own detours. We don't kind of define what they do. But the green route here shows kind of the posted detour for eastbound traffic during construction. And then kind of a blow up here. This one we also have a printout for people to linger on. We're implementing a bunch of speed humps on kind of areas where we expect people to try to cut off the posted detour during construction for traffic calming and to kind of deter that movement through the neighborhood. This was one that we kind of worked out with the community and our traffic group to implement. This like kind of additional feature as part of the project. And this, I won't go into it on the presentation because again, I'm sure it's really hard to see, but we don't have this one printed out, but I can explain it. We do plan to have a pedestrian path on both sides of the street during construction at all times. So this kind of light blue shows like what will be open for the pedestrians during construction. The green shows open streets. So you can see here, westbound traffic will be maintained on the north side of the street. When we're constructing the hatched, the kind of like crisscross area here, the south side of the street. So when that's under construction, we'll just kind of maintain the sidewalks as is. So the businesses will still be able to have access, and they'll work on one side of the roadway at once. and then kind of show what we're planning to do when they're working on the sidewalks themselves. So in this case, again, we're still maintaining the westbound traffic on the roadway, but we will be doing a pedestrian path on the side of the road that's being worked on. It'll be within the then constructed roadway. It'll have like a, like a barricade to allow people to still walk through. And then we will have the contractor will work with all the, the businesses, the property owners to maintain access, kind of through there during construction to the building entrances. One of the big things with phase one was that like kind of the whole street was torn up at once. So we ended up working to phase it so that they will be working on kind of one block at a time. They'll do, they'll only ever have like one block's worth of that work torn up at a time. So like this crisscross area here would be like the work zone for that phase. They would finish that up before going to the next one. Naturally, when they are working on the other side of the street, they'll flip-flop this. The westbound traffic will be kind of on the south side of the street, the wrong side of the street during construction. And like similarly, that'll be constructed, and then the sidewalk people will move, the pedestrians will move into the roadway into like kind of a protected area through. And again, we'll work with the property owners to maintain access to the properties. This is just some pictures from earlier from preliminary engineering, just some renderings that we had that we wanted to pop into the presentation to hopefully show how nice it's going to look when it's done. Another one we have the printouts of is the public art. Kind of Sally Ann's done a great job with her team of pushing the process through and helping us to have engagement between the artists that we've worked with and the community to develop these features. So we're doing artistic bike racks. The raised intersection will have an aesthetic detail in it. We're looking at bus shelter wraps. At the planter beds, we're doing a raised concrete bench, and that'll have like a little bit of a relief with this detail on it. And then the tree grates will have an aesthetic treatment on them as well. These ones, we're getting close, I think, to working with the fabricators to kind of see like what is feasible to construct, but this is their concept at this point. And just kind of a walk through the passage just to see kind of what it'll look like. We are planting street trees throughout the corridor, so those will be implemented throughout. At the intersections, we are doing kind of that raised concrete seating area with like a small planting area, also with trees, and that'll be kind of like an additional bench. And then here at Pacific, this is the one that's the raised intersection, so you got to think this will be the artistic treatment I was talking about, and then this will all kind of be at a tabletop elevation. When we look at the next intersection, again, we have the bump outs here. The bump outs, we have kind of the seated areas with the plantings. We'll be including new traffic signals throughout, new ADA ramps, bus shelters where when we work with PRT to make sure the buses are accommodated, and then just new sidewalk and roadway. Here's Aiken, similar, tree pits, bus shelters, bump outs, new signals at the intersection, and then some landscaped areas, and then the tree pits that go throughout. And then our final intersection is Graham, all the same treatments, tree pits, planters, all that. So, and we have the plans all here. They are the engineering plans, so we'll explain them for when they're hard to read. But we also have posted all this, I believe, already on the Engage page. So you'll have time to kind of dive into these slides at your own pace. Timeline. April 2025. Yeah, sorry. So we are working on the final design now. Terry is working to kind of give the final design to the city, where we will review it. We'll send him comments. We'll get like to a point where we're happy with it. And then to PennDOT, we're sending it early next year. PennDOT will approve it. We have a bunch of other approvals that we need to do, right of way. We need to get all the utilities to sign off on what we're doing. All those kind of things, constructability, the ADA committee from PennDOT looks at our projects. So we get all those approvals, final approval from PennDOT, and then we would advertise it at this point on the schedule in June, and then start the construction kind of in late summer, autumn of 2025. We're thinking around 2 construction seasons worth of work. And then we do have an Engage page for the project. I think we're sharing that on a different slide as well. You can also search on Engage for future project updates. We'll be putting out more information kind of as we finalize it as well. Back to you. Back to me. Okay. So, all right. We are looking for feedback as we do finalize these designs. As Rick noted earlier, they are not final, but we are kind of in like a pre-final stage at this point. So, we're looking for comments in the Q&A portion. We have a bunch of Post-it notes to put things on the plans, on the boards, and all that. And we'll like kind of log that. We'll send that around to Jan's group and PennDOT. They look at all that. And things on Zoom. Lindsay will be doing that. And then on the Engage page as well, there is a dialog box to add in further comment. Yeah, okay.
So Lindsay and myself are sort of your project contacts between now and construction. If you signed in today, we'll take down those email addresses. We'll add them to our email list for this, for any other project updates. Otherwise, we push a lot to the Engage page, so really do encourage folks to go on there and follow that. The link for that Engage page is right here, but if you go up and you search Penn Ave Phase 2, it should be the first thing that pops up. So with that, I think we'll move into some Q&A. I think we want to have time for folks to look at the boards, but we wrap this part of the presentation up pretty speedily. So I don't know, 15, 20, 25 minutes we'll spend on Q&A unless questions die down, and then we'll just jump to the boards. So the way that I like to do this is give folks a chance on Zoom if they have a question, and we'll just bounce back and forth between the room and then Zoom. So is there a mic back there? We ask that folks in the room use that mic. It's for the folks on Zoom to be able to hear. I know this isn't amplifying, but it is helping the people on Zoom. Any questions in the room? Question back there. It won't amplify, you just have to speak up.
It's just for the online people.
Talking. Hi, I am so excited. Thank you. I live at the corner of Penn and Pacific, so I love what you're doing. Question, I didn't see anything on trash cans. Is there any designs or things that you're thinking about when it comes to trash cans and where they'll be located?
Before we respond online, at least they have that audio, I think the city channel needs some names.
All right, we'll do some troubleshooting on that.
Yeah, they might not have shown up on the renderings, but we are putting in trash bins. They should be city standard regular recycling. I believe we're doing both of those as part of the project. I'll double check the details because we have the plan set here, but that's my memory.
The ones we have currently on Penn, are those the city standard or are those different?
I think we're doing the Victor Stanley, the more standard city standard. Not the Penn Phase 1 standard, I don't believe.
Yes. Oh, thank you.
Any questions on Zoom or just audio difficulties? Okay. Any other questions? There's a. Okay. Tony. Yeah, that's good. We'll come to you next.
Sorry, hi. You said there were 2 seasons of construction. What is a season?
Typically, they can only pour concrete or lay asphalt when it's warm. So we kind of think of it as like March to November. It gets wider every year because of climate change. But
Is that 2 years then?
It depends on like when they start. Yeah, but it's 2 years. Yeah, it's 2 years. It's 2 years. Yeah.
All right, I think there was a question up here, if we can pass the mic up here. Oh, there's a question here, and then we'll come here.
Hope everybody's all right. I have a few questions. I'll try to make them as brief as I can. The speed bumps you were talking about on Friendship, are they going to have a cut in them like they do on Staten Avenue? And secondly, where will residents and businesses have parking during this construction? And number three, is there going to be heavy excavation like we had to do with the gas and water lines on Penn Avenue? And finally, if there is heavy excavation, I was concerned that, well, when Penn Avenue was dug up the last time, I think there were a lot of mice in the ground. And I know that contractors can do pest control. Is that going to be required? I know this is a serious question.
The speed humps will be our city standard, which I believe do have
They'll
the.
be temporary, so they'll be rubber, so yeah, they'll have the cut.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they'll have the cut. They will have the cut through. Oh, yeah.
For a bike, yeah.
Yeah, for like a
Or
bike to go
drivers.
through or like an EMS vehicle. Like the speed humps will have the cut through, the little
Okay,
thing
On the sides, yeah.
on the side. Yeah.
And parking for Penn Avenue? Businesses and.
They'll be parking on one side of the street or both sides of the street.
side, yeah.
One side of the street
Yeah, especially what's not.
during construction. Yeah, because we'll only be taking essentially one lane at a time. So we'll still have one lane of parking.
Is any heavy excavation anticipated, like there was on the other phase, where you really had to dig into the ground? I know People's Gas did that on Penn.
Yeah. So we'll be digging, the deepest I guess we'll be going is for, I think in individual locations to make the inlets, the catch basins that we'll have to replace or move. Yeah, it'll be like like that size. And then we'll be taking out the trolley tracks as part of that. So those are like 24 inches deep?
Yeah, and
Maybe.
will there be pest control people to help make sure that no bugs or mice get into houses with the excavation, because they live underground?
Yeah, that's, yeah,
We'll do some coordination with our permits, license, inspections department. I know that they've been able to do some preemptive stuff on some other projects. We'll have a conversation with them to see what that looks like.
With the health department as well?
What's that?
With the health department as well?
Yeah, I don't know what our coordination with them looks like, but I know our permits, license, and inspections department, they do baiting and trapping. So we can work with them to see if that's something they'd be able to do here.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then there's a question here. I know I've been promising questions here for a couple times.
We live over on Grove Street in Penn. I just want to say we're very, very excited for all this. Really looking forward to all the changes. I did one question. So we've been noticing there's been construction on Penn for the last couple of months with all the work that they've been doing. And drivers are using the Coral Street and Comrie Way Neighbor Way a lot as a cut through. And it's kind of getting to the point where you can't really use it comfortably to bike anymore. And the detours are great, but I don't think a lot of drivers follow posted detours. They use Google Maps. So is there a suggestion there?
We've been hearing this a lot
Okay.
lately in
Okay.
particular, I think
Okay.
because of this same issue.
Okay.
So this is on our radar, but we don't have anything quite yet.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Lindsay, are there any questions on Zoom? Okay, we'll go back here. Yep. Thanks, Tony.
I had a question about the bus line redesign matching up with this, because one of the proposals in the bus line redesign, it specifically deals with the Pacific Avenue and Avenue intersection, and that the bus line would be coming up, or the other way, basically going across Penn Avenue on Pacific Avenue. So would that change then how you plan that intersection, or are you in contact with them to work out the timing?
Yeah, we have a meeting with them next week actually about the redesign and our upcoming projects. Admittedly, I've not prepared for that yet, but I was gonna look at all of my upcoming projects and kind of tell them what's going on and see where we're at. So it also on the radar, yeah.
Okay, and then one other question, is there any chance to go back to any of the pieces of phase one to make them more cohesive with phase two, like removing the light boxes or fixing the tree grades to make it, since it's supposed to be one unified project?
I would say not as part of this project, just because typically with these like kind of federally funded projects, we have like a limit of work of where we go. But I would say there's nothing stopping us from either working with like DPW or working with like the council district to seek funds to undertake those changes. Yeah.
Like, if you knew while they speak, it's easier for the online people to understand.
City Channel, are you able to coordinate that, or?
I can mute his mic, I can mute yours.
Okay, so we'll just cover this one when somebody else is talking. Okay, there's a question back there.
Can you say anything about the parking situation on Penn Avenue? Because between Pacific and Eveline, there's essentially no parking restrictions, and I assume that's going to change with this.
You mean in like after it's all constructed?
Exactly.
I don't think there's, when you say no parking restrictions, you mean like no
Like
residential?
you cannot get towed on Penn Avenue between Eveline and Pacific. Ever.
There's no permit.
There's no permits.
There's what's it called? Yeah, no
Or will
kiosks.
parking replace that?
Terry, are we changing anything with the parking layout at this point?
That's a city call.
Yeah, if there's a desire, I can talk to our people who work with the parking. I mean, is that a desire of the neighborhood to?
Paid for parking on that block. And I assume it would change because there's meters down on the next block with phase one.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, so I will double check and we'll get back to you guys, yeah.
There's a question here, and then we'll bump up here. And this is not Tony's job, but he's doing a great job, so thank you.
Good job, Tony. I am actually excited to talk about the fact that you're putting public art in here. I think that's fabulous. I think it's completely appropriate for the work you guys are doing. Phasing it in is perfect. I agree that we should do something with the phase one to make some type of seamless piece. I mean, investing all this money into phase two is great, exciting, but at the same time, phase one will look like, you know what, right, crap. I appreciate the comments that Joe made about parking. So a couple of things. I think communication is going to be really critical for this project. This is the first evening meeting that I'm aware of, and I can't say that I'm aware of everything, but this is the first public meeting that I'm aware of. And I've been to the Engage PGA page to comment, but haven't received a lot of feedback. So I lived through phase one, right? And so I think you've answered so many questions about how you're going to manage speed bumps on Friendship. I would suggest and hope that you look at Broad and Dearborn also, because that community, you know, we're all one big circle, and I think that is going to be a detour, unofficial detour. So I'm curious about things like your wayfinding, and then as much as I would love to think it could happen, but enforcement. And wayfinding that actually talks about residential zones, so that companies are aware. I'm sure anybody that lives on any of these roads have experienced 18-wheelers getting lost.
Yeah.
And trees getting hit, just, you know, but then cars get hit. And it just ramped up. Phase one was bad. Let's just put it that way, it was bad. And if it only lasted 2 years, it felt like 10. So I apologize to Trans, because I know how hard everybody works. But it,
Terry did not do phase one. No, it's all new people.
So I want to say all that. I also want to talk for a minute about stormwater management. While I think that putting inlets along the road is important, since it's a rebuild and a complete reconstruction, some other way of managing the water. I mean, it's been used throughout the city. It's required in many developments that you put green infrastructure, that you green management and ways to do that. There are smart ways to do that, especially if you're opening up the ground. So really re-emphasizing that. just to say it again, because I think it's worth saying, is communication is critical. And many of us work full-time jobs. We try to go online, we try to understand it, but coming to the community in the evening is so much better, even if it is Zoom, right? Because people don't want to go out, but I appreciate you coming tonight. So if final design is going to be sent to the city in the next couple of months, it might be great to have you all come back and present on some of the questions. Like the garbage cans are a great question because they are part of the, kind of the whole atmosphere of Penn Avenue. It's changed, it's lively, it's important. And really kind of going back and seeing what would be the cost for DPW to remove the light boxes, which by the way, I love, okay? The ones that are left, I love. But to clean up stuff up so there is some kind of, when you open up the road, there's some kind of, it's a real opening, right? But communication, so emails, a letter. I mean, the city has the ability to send stuff to everybody. Reverse 911 works for PWSA or whatever. I get calls from the water company. I can certainly get a call from the city. So I appreciate the work that y'all do and how hard it is, but just some comments that we take under consideration.
Okay, I'm going to try and repeat some of these questions because we're having some difficulty hearing online. I think first and foremost was the question about communication. Number 2 was about wayfinding. Number 3 was about coming back to the community sometime in the future for another meeting. Is there another big point that I missed?
Well, wayfinding and enforcement.
Okay.
And then coming back to the community just to present a more full picture. I appreciate you don't have all the answers, but having it more fleshed out with more recent design, concept designs, et cetera.
Okay.
And the engineering. I think that many of us have gone through projects like this. We kind of know what's going to happen.
Okay. So for folks online, that's question about coming back with final designs sometime next year, closer to construction. Real quick on I know you mentioned it, the reverse 911 thing. So my role was created because of poor communication on behalf of the city around these infrastructure projects. So I'm really your go-to person. My job is to be the communicator for DOMI and DPW on their projects. I'll make sure my email address is up here on the end. So I'll be your go-to person. On site, there'll be a construction foreman who will also be available. The reverse 911, there's like a little bit of misconception. It doesn't work for us. PWSA, it works because they have customer phone numbers. The city doesn't have customer phone numbers. Mm-hmm. The best I can do is look for people who've submitted 311s in a certain area, see if they've submitted with a phone number. Mm-hmm. I can look into what that looks like. We do have the ability to send letters. I think we've done that on the corridor for property owners because there's some easements and stuff that were part of it. So we are really trying to improve our communication. I want to make sure people have a chance to take down my email address. If you want to see me after, I'll give you my work phone number as well. I'm happy to be that contact. Mike, do you want to talk about wayfinding, detours, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, the detours are, the way they're signed is generally pretty standardized, but in terms of wayfinding and enforcement, when you say wayfinding, are you thinking like other locations in the neighborhood to inform?
So the last detour that happened during phase 1 was really very, Penn like, right? So it could be more, you're entering a residential zone, right? The detour for, large trucks is on Liberty Avenue. It could be more explicit where it becomes more friendly for the people that are driving. Because it's not the cars, right? We can live through cars. People use I live on Friendship Avenue, right? I live in that detour nightmare. So people are going to use cars, that's fine. So the speed humps are perfect. Again, emphasizing we should look at Broad and Dearborn, that is important. But really emphasizing to people using it that they're entering into a residential zone. Mm-hmm. Right? There's a school on Friendship Avenue. Mm-hmm. People aren't going to just detour, make the circle. They're going to keep going down Friendship Avenue. There's Montessori there, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on just in the neighborhood that when I talk about wayfinding, it's more than just an arrow, it's more descriptive, right?
Do you want to?
Yeah.
They do it for the Italian
Yeah.
festival. I mean, I'm not kidding you, right? They put signs like resident parking, you can do it, it can be figured out, right?
Yeah. Thank you. We'll take that comment. I'm going to pass, I think, until we get stuff troubleshooted, maybe. I'm just going to pass this mic to the folks that have questions. Do you have a question on Zoom, Lindsay?
So Eric is asking on Zoom, what is the frequency of the new bike racks?
Yeah, the question was, what is the frequency of the new bike racks? We'd probably have to check the landscape plan of where they laid those out. I don't know if they're,
Yeah, I
are they
think
on the
they're on there. I think
plan
they're
there?
on there.
Yeah, we would have to look at the plan. So we can, is Eric with, can Eric say whether he's with Bloomfield or Garfield? We could like get back to their neighborhood group, or we can follow up with them if you have contact through Zoom, or we can just follow up on Engage or something like that.
Any other questions in the room? We'll go here, here, and then here.
How you doing? Are you going to replace the water lines on Penn Avenue?
The short answer is it's not our responsibility. We did do some coordination with PWSA. We've tried to bring them to meetings to talk about that, but we as the city can't
Order that.
Yeah, order or compel PWSA to do that work. What happened with the gas lines, it is understandably frustrating, but we give them the opportunity to say, to align their work with ours. Typically, I think our preference would be to do it while we do it so that the disturbance is minimal, but they can...
They can elect to do it differently.
Yeah.
So they can elect to come in beforehand and do it. Yeah, they can elect to come in beforehand and do the work like People's is. They can elect to incorporate the work into the project. They can elect to do nothing. The utilities, we can't compel them to update their things, but part of the process is we tell them what we're doing. We say you have the opportunity, and like they tell us like what they're going to do.
I wouldn't leave knob too long wall as about the drop. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's concrete is expensive, right? Concrete is expensive.
Yeah.
So you got the street torn up. Our water pressure on Penn Avenue is horrible. And the water lines are probably, who knows how old. And it just doesn't seem, and just one quick follow-up, with what Matthew was asking about, paid parking in front of the residential zones. Is that gonna happen or not? Because it's important that it doesn't.
Okay, so the comment was that it's important that the residential areas of Penn remain not paid parking. Okay, and I want to invite the folks in the back. There are some open seats here. You're welcome to stand back there, but there are some open seats. You had a question?
So I have a few questions. I wanted to know, how will the raised intersections and the sidewalks during construction be made friendly for people with low and no vision? When will you be aware of what other projects are happening at the same time as this project? Because what typically happens is during the construction season, multiple things will be going on. And so if you have water line work on Dearborn, if you have gas line work on Liberty Avenue or Friendship Avenue, those things are going to affect how and where people are going to be detoured. I love that I guess you said that this stuff is going to be placed onto Engage, or maybe it's already placed on Engaged. And I use the Engage page a lot. I love it. I do not like it for this project, because it's usually months, and even like I think we went 2.5 years without an update. And when you ask questions on it, like, you don't really get answers. And so if you can make a concerted effort to update, and I would love it if you would continue that process through the construction period so that when people are having issues, they know how to contact somebody to get answers. That would be great. Because it's one thing for them to reach out to you and to email you, Jan, like that is great to be able to give that phone number and email, but it doesn't then allow the other people that are engaging with the Engage page to find those answers. So if you're able to put those questions and those answers, like not live, but like, you know, whatever, at the end of the day or end of the week, whatever, then other people will not be calling and asking the same things or fretting over the same problems. And then so in the phase one, and also for this, you know, you put down the concrete, and then there's inevitably work that happens. And so now we're stuck with some asphalt and some concrete. By DOMI code or your procedures, when somebody digs up concrete, do they have to replace it with concrete, or can they replace it with asphalt?
Okay.
And then my final question is, are we going to be able to see a construction management plan? I would love to know, where are the diggers and dumpers going to be parking? Where are the construction workers going to be parking? And where would you be storing your raw materials?
All right, I'm going to try and keep these all straight and try and repeat them back to Mike. Okay, so first and foremost, or maybe not foremost, but first was the question about low and no vision pedestrian access.
Yeah, so we will be doing the standard for those raised intersection where everything is at the same elevation, is to have a big detectable warning surface, the yellow truncated domes, essentially for the entire way, because you are entering a vehicular area, and then we'll put the high-vis crosswalk markings that we'll be doing throughout the entire corridor. So that's the standard for those.
And then while the sidewalks are closed and a little bit funny and going out and in, and that to me, I am a full-sighted person, and that was very confusing. I want to make sure that our neighbors that don't have full sight are able to manage.
No, that is a good point, and we'll take that and see what we need to make sure is included in the bid documents for the contractor.
I think the next question was about nearby projects and the impacts of those. I'll just take a quick stab, which is we've done the coordination with the utilities to let them know the project, what the scope of the project is, the project timeline. They should be able to work around that. Obviously, things like emergencies pop up. Private developers, stuff like that, we find out when they submit their permits, and then our permits folks, they work through those individual permits and say, like, you're already on a detour route, what does that look like? And they'll try and coordinate through that as well.
And like, we have our contractors get those permits too, so that they're on the same books as the other permit. All
right, I've reached the extent of my memory. What was 3?
Updates on Engage page, continuing through the project.
Yeah, so same way my role is to kind of be the liaison. We have a position in the mayor's office that's our digital engagement coordinator. They work extensively on our Engage pages. That position currently is vacant, but we've worked with them to set some standards with DOMI, DPW planning that we're really working to enforce, which is kind of more quarterly updates of pages so that pages don't go more than 3 months, 6 months without getting updated. As projects move into construction, we're trying to get that to like monthly updates, realizing that, you know, people want more timely information on things that are in construction right then. That's kind of what our like goal. I can't guarantee that we will, you know, exceed that, but we are working towards being able to update Engage pages more often, not having folks like Mike look at comments, but rather have somebody who's doing it on a weekly basis, sending a week's worth of questions to Mike, getting a week's worth of answers, and then updating them. We'll go back through questions that are already on there. We'll compile an FAQ. We'll add some questions from this meeting as well. We'll make sure that gets up on Engage as well.
And then construction management plan.
Yeah, I'll hand that to Mike.
Yeah, that has been asked before, so I mean, we don't typically do those for our street reconstruction projects. I'll just throw that out there.
I think because the first time was such a big nightmare.
Yeah.
Like, really, really terrible. that there were big dirt piles covering sidewalks in front of people's houses,
Yeah.
in their front yards. Not the trucks and the dumpers and the diggers knocked down our trees, they knocked down our stop signs. We were a little frustrated the last time.
So we are aware that the city has already been in conversation with the Children's Home of Pittsburgh about the large lot at Broad and North Atlantic, which is now just an open graveled lot. We're asking that the construction vehicles and the workers' vehicles be parked up there, if at all possible. It's a pretty large lot. I think the storage of raw materials, and I think it gets back to how this project is going to be staged. We're going one block at a time. So the understanding is that any raw materials are going to be stored on the same side of the street, in the same block where construction work is being done. That was a major miss on phase one. We had mounds of dirt for weeks on Penn Avenue. I think we also had multiple block closures. This is what People's Gas is doing right now. We've been trying to get People's Gas to come to a community meeting, and so far they are resisting. Are you with People's?
Yes, sir. I'm a construction superintendent for Penn Avenue Phase 1.
Yeah. So Alonzo Diaz Perez, our COO, has been communicating now with the attorney for People's, a gentleman named Mike Terzai, who is also the former Speaker of the Pennsylvania House and a very nasty person to boot. I hate to put you on the spot about that. So we're trying to say a lot of damage has already been done to businesses on Penn Avenue, and we want some way to find a means to compensate them for their losses. That's the issue on the table right now. I think the whole issue of construction management is critical to the success of the project. And I think this time we're going to be very closely monitoring, how long vehicles remain in certain blocks. What time does construction begin? What time does it end? When it ends, the assumption is that the lane closure will remain overnight. Yeah, you're not reopening things. No. So, but again, one block at a time. And if it doesn't adhere to that, if the contractor starts making up his or her own rules, then we're going to go after them. Okay, we're not going to be abused like People's Gas has abused Penn Avenue.
And Matt Von Diamond 5 years ago, yeah.
All right, do we have any more questions on Zoom? I just want to be cognizant of time. I'd like to wrap the questions up at 7 so that we have some time to spend with the boards. So if you have questions, try and keep them succinct. We'll keep our answers succinct, and we'll get through as many as we can.
So I just wanted to follow up a little about what Rick just said about parking up at the children's home. I don't know if you guys have been in contact with anyone over there yet. We have provided parking for PWSA and what they're doing right now at the Broad Street lot. So I can give you my business card before I leave, and we can be in those communications. We don't have a problem doing that. It's better for the residents and the businesses if we have everything contained in one spot, and we do have a lot available. Just for the children's home, I think our concern about the west side of the street being, westbound, eastbound shenanigans is just our school buses that turn in and out of the parking lot. We do have full-size school buses that, need a little extra width to be able to get in. So I think I would like that to be a consideration when you get to our part of Penn Avenue, just to give some thought and give us a little leeway in the mornings and afternoons when it comes to those buses.
Thanks. Mike, do you want to respond, or you just note that and we'll...
Yeah, and I think we've been in contact with the G. Yes, thank you. So I think we'll be calling in again. For sure.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to sort of reiterate what someone else mentioned about really coordinating with PRT. Penn Avenue is whether we like it or not, it is a major through route. And so we want to make sure that buses, including the articulated buses, can go on that route if necessary. I also don't know if anyone's looked at traffic impacts. When you put in the bump outs on every corner, there's no room to go around someone who's turning left. There's no room for the bus to get out of the way if they've got a longer stop. And have you looked at consideration of maybe not doing that in some corners? So those are just comments, really. I do also want to suggest on the detour, there are 2 left turns that already back up, especially during busy hours. I don't know if they can adjust the timing on those during the construction period or something like that, if they have problems. I'm saying at Liberty onto Baum and then from Baum onto Negley, right? Those already back up. And so that's a concern. And then also if you waited until spring to start construction rather than starting in September, could you get it done in one season?
I'm going to not answer any of these because I don't know.
Yeah, with the signal timings, we could talk to our signals group. They control all those things if there's issues. If we started at the beginning of construction season, there's more than one season's worth, so we wouldn't be able to do that. What was it was the reiterate, and the bump outs. Yeah, so we're putting those in for pedestrian safety and to also make it easier for the buses to load and offload at the intersections where there are the bus stops. So they're not like kind of swerving in and out and causing that kind of a dangerous situation. Everyone's kind of moving in line, everyone's moving predictably, and it does, it's to mostly to reduce the pedestrian crossing distance and to have a traffic calming effect, yeah.
I worry sometimes that in general, we're prioritizing pedestrian safety to make the crossing 3 feet shorter, especially at a signalized intersection, and the result is that we have more queuing of traffic, which doesn't necessarily benefit us. But that's, I know I'm on that's the side.
No. Yeah, I think it's a valid point, and it's something that we can talk with. I think generally pedestrians are crossing 24/7, and there's queuing really at those like high traffic times, and so we're looking at like a couple minutes, seconds delay a couple times a day versus providing that pedestrian safety around the clock 365 days a year.
But the various area of how long it is it really just a couple minutes? I'm not going to.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah. Any other questions in the room? We'll go here and then back there. And I think these will be the last 2 questions, but feel free to ask your questions at the tables.
My first question is, what will road closures and traffic rerouting look like? And also, what is your projected impact to local businesses? Like, what do you project that to look like for this phase?
So I think the best thing for the detours is to look at the board closely, but I think Mike can talk about it more. It's up here. The main detour is via Liberty and Baum, and the bus detour is shorter. It's that blue line to maintain as many stops on Penn as possible. Yeah. And then with businesses, I think having gone through phase 1, part of it is just restricting it to 1 block at a time, working with the contractor to maintain access to businesses. I've also been in some conversations independent of this project with folks at the URA about the opportunities that businesses might be eligible for before we go to construction. So we're still in those conversations for other places we're doing work, like the Strip District, East Ohio Street on the north side, and so we can add this construction project to their radar to look at some of those opportunities through the URA. And there was another question back there, which will be our last question.
I'm just realizing that this is coinciding with the closure of the Squirrel Hill Tunnel, where Penn Avenue is going to be a major thoroughfare for commuters. Has that been taken into account in regarding with possible multiple detours? Because there's going to be a lot of traffic coming through the East End once the Squirrel Hill Tunnel closes.
Mike, I'm going to let you.
Yeah, I will raise it. Honestly, I'll raise it with my boss and the people that do the detours throughout the city. Serge being my main contact, who issues those permits for the detours. To gear up and kind of figure out how we're going to deal with these multiple huge impacts. That's a really good point.
Yeah, and this isn't the only one. In my job, I think I hear about detours maybe second most after traffic calming. I think it's the nature of a ton of infrastructure investment right now. There's a lot of stuff happening, which is really great. It's revitalizing parts of our city that haven't had their infrastructure improved in a long time, but it obviously comes with frustration. The city's trying to do work at the same time as the county and PennDOT. We really just try and coordinate as closely internally as possible and share that information with them, and we ask that they do the same with us. So yeah, we'll look at it more. So I think there's no questions on Zoom. I think we'll wrap up the Q&A portion, but we've got the boards here, we've got the project team here if folks want to ask more questions. Again, really big thanks to Bloomfield Garfield Corporation for hosting us. Thank you all for coming out. Enjoy some pizza. It's probably a little bit cold now, but it's here for you. So thank you.